bi-weekly Hangout on Air. Today, I am joined by Ajay Nainani, who is Product Manager for Google Analytics. Ajay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
And I'm Krista Seiden, Analytics Advocate for Google. And today we're talking about the new Google Analytics mobile app and GA Assistant. So before we go ahead and dive in, let's take a look at our agenda. So first, we're going to go over kind of just the background of the mobile app and why we have rebuilt this from the ground up. Then we're going to actually give you a product overview and a demo of what that looks like now. Then we're going to talk about something new called the GA Assistant and give you a demo of that. And finally, we're going to finish with your questions. So do get your questions in as we go through. And as a reminder on questions, go ahead and submit them. There's a link on the slide. It's the same link that's in the invite for this HOA. Or you can always submit your questions through the chat box in the Hangout on Air window that you're looking at right now. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right in.
Thank you. I hope you guys memorized that long link. This, as you know, is Google Analytics. This is something what it looks like when you log in. There's a ton of information here. And there's a lot of challenges involved in bringing it down to a smaller screen. But we really have to think about why we want to do that first. And there's a few reasons why you should even care about having this accessible to you when you're not at your desk. The first one is, a lot of times you need to answer questions that you get through Google Analytics and you're not at your computer. It's the weekend, or you're home at night, and you want to see whether those referral links are working out. And you need some way to get that answer wherever you are. The other thing we think it's kind of like a gateway drug for GA. There's a lot of information in Google Analytics, and it can be very overwhelming for people. And I bet a lot of you work in organizations where you've thought, man, I really wish that Jim in marketing or AJ in product would use Google Analytics a lot more than he does. How can I get him something that's like an easier version of GA to get him started, get him more interested in doing the deep dive analysis that's available in the full web product. And that's what one of the things that mobile app's really great for. So as you'll see, like if you're in a group where you're like, man, I really want him to try something in GA, but GA is too complicated, try giving him the mobile app first and see how that goes. Again, you can answer many, many questions quickly when you're not at your desk. I'll show you some example questions. And we've made it so you can continue your analysis on the web. We've given you sharing that allows you to kind of send yourself a reminder of what you're looking at, as well as the ability to send that information to somebody else. So it's actually very powerful in a small form factor, or even in a tablet, which we'll demo today. So there's a few example questions that we can, just to give you a sense of what you can answer on the go. Things like, how did my revenue change this week? Or what about my users? Or how did my page views or sessions or events? Anything week-over-week time frame changes. What are my top landing pages? What are my top landing pages for search? What are my top landing pages for mobile? How did that change week-over-week, month-over-month, today versus yesterday? These are all things you can do. What referral sources are sending traffic to my site right now? Like the real-time data. What do you want to see right now? What pages are users looking at right now? Am I seeing the errors? Am I seeing events?
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm for sure interested in on the go. Like I always want to know if the campaign that I'm running is working
right now, right?
Exactly.
Right? Is your social, you put a post on social, are you getting traffic from social? Can you see that right now? And again, you're not always at your desk, or you don't always have the browser open. How frequently do people use your site? When do they use your site? When do they use your app? And by the way, like the Google Analytics mobile app works with both app and web properties that you're measuring through Google Analytics. You don't have to do any extra setup to get it to work.
Right. So quick distinction there. When we're talking about Google Analytics mobile app, like this is not Google Analytics on a mobile app. We talked about that last week with Firebase Analytics and DTM V2 for mobile. This is the actual app that we have for reporting your analytics stats.
That's right. Yeah, it's basically take all of GA when you log in and just kind of crunch it down. How do you get that on the go? That's what it is.
Perfect.
So again, why you should care, just a quick distinction. We think of three different activities when you think of using Google Analytics. One is discovery, which is you're trying to see what's useful in your data, whether there's anything that's interesting, whether anything pops out. Monitoring, I want to monitor some key metrics on a periodic basis, every week, every day, every month. And then analysis, I want to go kind of deep into analysis. And the web is a very rich analytics platform that lets you go deep into analysis. On mobile, it's a little bit more limited. So that's the part where I think it stands out. Whereas discovery and monitoring, there's actually some key advantages to actually being on mobile. With monitoring, if you want to monitor this metric frequently, you can do that every time you pull your phone out of your pocket. For discovery, if you want to flip through things, we actually make it very easy to flip through metrics and dimensions. And I'll show you the differences there.
So our sweet spot here really is the discovery and the monitoring pillars.
That's right. You think of it's a simple way to discover what's interesting in your data and monitor what's useful. So here's just a couple high-level features before we go into a demo. One, Android and iOS parity. This is something that took a lot of work to do, but we know that some of your people on your team are going to be on an iOS device and some people on an Android device, and you want to speak the same language and have the same interactions. It's very important. So we made sure that the functionality, the flows, everything are common across Android and iOS where they should be, and only different where they should be. So for example, the sharing icon is different on iOS and Android because of those different platforms. Everything is material design. We introduced interactivity to the visualizations. In our old app, when you tapped on the visualization, if you wanted to dig deeper, it would take you to another page, which is kind of strange. And you would kind of get lost, like where was I looking?
Right.
But now you can actually dig deeper into every data point. And that makes it interesting for you to kind of go investigate some numbers further. It's very simple to do customization in this app. So that's going to be extremely powerful. So for monitoring, you may have some key metrics, some segments, some dimensions that you care about watching. And they may not be part of the defaults, but that's something you care about. We make it very easy for you to build your own dashboard so you can measure on the go.
Great.
It's a simplified reporting control panel changes and easy insight report sharing. I'll totally get into that. Done a lot of talk about it. I'd love to take you through it. So we're going to flip over to a demo and going to show you what actually the experience is like. I'm going to be running the demo off of an iPad. It works on Android and iOS. It works on tablets and phones. But for the sake of this demo, I've just got it hooked up to an iPad here to show you.
Awesome.
So what you're looking at right now is the Google Analytics home screen overview. And just briefly, when you log into Google Analytics, here's what you see, right? You've got an audience overview. We've got sessions, users, page views. You got some traffic over time. And we've kind of replicated that a little bit, but gone a little bit further. What we've done with the overview on mobile is we wanted to give you a breakdown of your audience metrics, your behavior metrics. If you have e-commerce, we'll give you an e-commerce overview, goals overview, everything right on the first screen. And these kind of cards, we call them scorecards because they allow you to change between metrics and dimensions very easily. So with the audience here, I can switch between users, sessions, new users very easily as my key metric. And let's say I'm actually interested in users. I can swipe between dimensions here. I can device category, channel groupings. And I've just looked at users over by channel groupings. So I can look at see, again, new users by channel groupings to see where my new users are coming from on any given time period. Now, these dimension breakdowns are about the same in each card. So if I want to see my revenue by default channel groupings, I can just swipe over and kind of compare new users, and revenue by channel groupings very easily at a glance. So it gives you very, very quickly the ability to kind of hone in on data. We have a lot of information here that's really accessible at a quick swipe or tap away. Behavior, one of my favorite metrics is sessions per user. This particular site isn't very interesting. This is actually a Google Analytics merchandise store. We sell hats and shirts.
Hey now.
It's okay.
I take personal offense to that. I hope to the analytics on this site.
It's not very interesting from a purpose of getting users to come back frequently. People come in, they shop, and they leave. It's not necessarily, if you're publishing articles, you probably have people coming back frequently, and you care about in any given time period how frequently are users coming back and how much does that change by mobile, tablet devices.
You mean you don't expect users to come back every week and buy a new hoodie?
Well, I mean, actually, let's find out. So let's see how often people actually come back, just since you've asked this question. One of the cool features from this, and anywhere in the app, there's this wrench button, which ties into our Explore feature. From here, I can go and customize this particular report and say what I want to say. So, okay, how frequently are people coming back? So if I want to go look at this, I'll just say users, and let's break this down by count of sessions. And there's my breakdown for how frequently coming back. And as true to story, the vast majority of my users only have one session. Now, this is actually, to be fair, this is a week. So let's actually see what happens over a month.
Sure.
So let's change it to a month. And let's make it simple. Turn off the comparisons. Sorry, I'll do that slower real quick. But so here's a breakdown by users count of sessions for the last month. And the distribution is about the same, right? So
decent amount of people do come back, though.
Some people do come back. So like there are 9,400 users who had 2 visits, 2 sessions over the time period.
That's impressive. The type of store.
For the type of store, that's right.
So you did a lot there.
I did a lot there.
Before we move on, I'd really like to kind of dig in a little bit more. So it seemed very simple to be able to change. Let's just first start with the metrics.
Sure.
You changed the metrics and you changed the dimensions.
Right.
And you did that very quickly. So can you maybe do that one more time here and show us how easy that is?
Sure, sure. So this is our Explore feature. Anytime, so this is basically like a custom report builder. So I can choose a metric, a dimension, a segment, and I can even change the visualization. If I want to see a table or and see like, here's my total deep breakdown of everything. So let me change my metric here. And let's say you wanted to see revenue by time of day or something like that. So let's just look at revenue. So revenue. And let's break this down. And here's all the dimensions that are available for revenue. Like this is kind of a smart match. So these are the metrics that work with revenue. So if I want to see revenue by country, here's my revenue by country in a table format, because that's the last visualization I had chosen. And I pull down to refresh.
So that's nice. So we're taking kind of the effort out of it. You don't need to know which metrics and dimensions work together. Whatever metric you choose, the available dimensions for that metric will show up.
That's right. And like here's, for example, like I have practically all of my revenue happening in the US.
We like our Google swag here.
Apparently it's all, and maybe I want to go dig deeper here and go into geo and see where is specifically, if I can go to metro, let's go to region and see what that does. So California and New York are driving a ton of the revenue. This is probably Googlers buying their own stuff, but we'll see what happens.
Probably.
But you can see, like, you can quickly answer these questions on the go. And actually, one more thing on this is, let's say I was actually interested in one of these things. I said, I really like this kind of sessions thing I did. And you know what? I actually let me just see this for returning users. I can add segments. You do segments to the whole site as well, but let me add this a segment here. Just break this down by returning visitors so I can get a deeper view on this. And cool, I want to watch this more frequently over time. I'm going to hit this save button on the top right. And it saved this as a dashboard. You see there's a show me thing on here on the bottom. I can either hit that on the left nav to go into my dashboard. And now this is added to my report. So I don't have to go navigate, add segments in the future, and create that report. It's saved here.
Okay.
I can come back anytime to look at this.
So you're creating a dashboard on the fly when you're saving your reports like that.
That's right. That's right. And now I can do things like change the date range for this. Let's go to this week versus the previous week, and let's see what that's. And I just, for all the reports on your dashboard, this will update.
Great. So that date range, there's already presets. If we go back into that.
Oh yeah, sure.
Presets for day, week, month, and then there's also custom.
Yep.
That's nice.
Yeah. So we found that actually, people tend to want to dig into their data on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, and then we do want to give you the ability to go deeper. Most people frequently want to see today's data versus yesterday, but in general, like the starting point for most people's analysis is just to see how things have changed on a weekly basis. So we start here, but we give you the ability to kind of set your own date ranges that you'd like.
Gotcha.
And you can always compare to a previous period or previous year. So we make comparisons also very simple, which is also really huge. It's very difficult to look at data without context to know, is this number good or bad? But offering some comparison to a previous time range is actually very useful. So just a brief summary here. So when I go to any report, this bar, we call it our data settings bar. This allows you to both not only change a date range, but also apply a segment.
Great.
So if I want to see all of the data on my app, like all the data I'm looking at for just search traffic, I can do that. So I'm going to segment down to search traffic. And now what I'm looking at is all this data here is segmented for search traffic.
So you've mentioned segments a couple of times. Can you take us through what segments are available?
Sure. Let me show that. So we have a few built-in segments. New visitors, returning visitors, paid search traffic, non-paid, search, direct, referral, visits to conversions, visits to transactions, mobile and tablet traffic, and non-bounce visits.
Okay.
These are a set of built-in segments. We are working to bring in custom segments that you create on GA as well.
Awesome.
So you can create those custom segments in GA and then access them on the go on the mobile as well.
So for now, we have these built-in ones, but in the future, at some point, all of the segments that you have in desktop GA will be available in the mobile app.
Yep, exactly. So let's go back and look at the search traffic data. So here, I'm looking at just my data for search traffic. Everything here is with that segment applied. So if I want to see revenue by diverse category for search traffic, I just flip over to that. And let me go ahead and save this guy to my dashboard. So what's cool about your dashboard is what I've done is I've pinned not only the report I care about, but the segments I care about on that report. So this is very, very powerful. Not only can you look at a set of metrics and dimensions, but you can actually say, I care about this for X. Like, for example, here's a revenue by device security for search traffic. What if I also wanted to see this for referral traffic? So let me go ahead and I can duplicate this. And now here, I'm going to change my segment from search traffic to referral traffic. And so this is actually not that interesting for device category because it's all 100% device category. But maybe I'll change it to operating system to see whether there might be something different going on there. And let's go ahead and save that as a table and save that.
Okay, so this is pretty interesting here. So you're saying, unlike desktop GA dashboards, you can actually segment each widget you have here or each card you have here separately and save that segmented view into this overall dashboard view.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's very powerful because you can build it exactly like you want to see it, and everyone might be different, but you have that, that one view that you've put together here.
Absolutely. One of the things I like to do is look at new users versus returning users and look at my dashboard segmented that way. So I'll create a copy of each card for new users and returning users and actually see how that data changes. So that's what I do for my sites. So I just want to give you a sense of what's actually in this app. So we'll talk about Assistant in a minute. But we've got your dashboard, which you just looked at. Real time, I'll take you through. We got overview, audience, acquisition, behavior, e-commerce, and Explorer is this builder we just saw. The overview page is what we just looked at. It's got a breakdown of your audience data, your behavior data, your e-commerce goals, users by time of day.
That's actually my favorite report in mobile.
Yeah. It's a really nice one because the visualization is beautiful. Let me take off segments for a second. The visualization is beautiful. It's extremely meaningful. I can see when users are actually coming to my site.
Right. So it looks like, what is that? The 2 p.m. hour on most weekdays is pretty popular.
Absolutely. And if I want to go further and say, I actually want to see revenue and not users per time of day, we can do this very easily. I change this to revenue. And now here's my revenue by time of day. And hey, I love this. I want to monitor this. Saved. It's on my dashboard. So very quickly lets you get to the metrics you want to see. So that's great. So that's really great. So that's overview. Audience gives you a sense of your audience metrics. And your key audience metrics are user sessions and new users. But there's a lot of different breakdowns of that you could be interested in. We've broken it down by acquisition. So how do you get your users, sessions, or new users? So source medium, campaign, keyword, referral path, demographics.
So before you move on, that's really slick. I like how you can just scroll right through the same card and see all of your audience by acquisition, in this case, metrics, in one place, kind of just with a swipe like that. That's very nice.
Yeah, and if you wanted to go see more of it, you just go into here and then view more, and you get a much larger list of what you're looking at there.
Awesome.
With audience, you can also care about your demographics. So by country, by city, language, gender, age. You have all this information. You can see 1824 is like the biggest driver of traffic on our site. Technology, so we've got operating system, screen resolution, browser, mobile device info, which are our biggest devices, our audiences by networks, what service providers and things like that. So this is a lot of information about your audience. Similarly for acquisition, and this is actually very similar to how we present on the web, but we've made it very accessible on mobile. So flip over to the web for a second. So on the web, if you look at our acquisition overview, we've got our top channels, our sessions, and conversions. And you've broken that by channel here. And on the left nav, you can switch between channels, source medium, and referrals. So if I want to see channels, I'll switch over to channels. And it loads. And here's sessions, new users. You got acquisition metrics, behavior metrics, and conversion metrics by channel. Source medium is here, source is there, medium is there. I can also click on source medium here or referrals here.
Right.
So the analogy for the app is very similar. So we've got your audience by acquisition, your behavior by acquisition, your conversion by acquisition, and your goals. So this is all the same metrics you see in the web. And here's your kind of acquisition overview report. Everything's broken by default channel grouping. And just like the other reports, if I want to see source medium, there's my source medium breakdown. I want to see campaign, there's my campaign breakdown. If I want to see keyword, there's my keyword breakdown. Very, very easy to access. Doesn't involve a page switch or anything like that. And I can get into any particular thing I want to care about. So my e-commerce conversion rate by channel grouping could be very interesting. There, I've got a 6% e-commerce conversion rate by referral. That's amazing.
That is really good.
And I probably want to go dig deeper into that. And this is where actually things get really cool. So you find something like that you want to dig deeper into, and you're like, I want to go dig deeper into this and do further analysis. Now, there's some analysis you can do in the app, just like we show you applying segments and stuff. But maybe you want to do full pathing analysis or something like that. That's available in the web tool. Or you want somebody else to look into this. Well, this is where you can share things. So I want to share this guy right here. So there's a share icon right next to the wrench, which allows you to choose any sharing options you have on your phone or tablet. In this case, I've got mail set up. And here, what it does, it takes the beautiful full-size image of that, the data you're just looking at, and drops it right into an email, because I chose email. It gives you the context of the date range. This is the Google Analytics report, and it tells you what account, property, and profile this data came from. So you have all this context to kind of pick up where you left off. And you can send it to yourself to go analyze it further on the web, or you can send it to somebody else and say, hey, do you know why this is happening? I can start a conversation right from the app.
Great.
This is something that's just like, it's essential for organizations now, because everybody works on a team, right? You don't work alone. You may not have the answer to this, but somebody else does, right?
One possible use of this that I see is you're on the go and maybe a big campaign just launched and you're looking at real-time stats and they are off the charts and you want to basically take a snapshot of that in time. So you do this sending out, and you send it to your whole team and say, congratulations, look at all this traffic we have. Or
awesome. We just launched this campaign. Look how awesome it is. And you queued me up for real time. So let's talk about real time.
Perfect.
So we went to acquisition. Behavior, it's a similar story, and e-commerce is a similar story. The only caveat for e-commerce is this data only shows up, and the left nav only shows up if you have e-commerce. So we also have a smart nav. So if you don't have an e-commerce site, you won't even see that on there unless you've configured e-commerce. Jumping into real time, one of the big use cases for mobile is what's happening on my site right now. So here's our real time report where I can see how many users are on my site, where they're coming from. I can see that there's some referral traffic, there's the pages they're on. Right now, there's actually no social traffic being referred to my site, so there's no referrals there. I've got keywords, mediums, event categories, what events are happening, what countries are there right now. So there's a tremendous amount of interesting real-time information. And this also you can add to your dashboard. So if you're like, you know what, I really care about this referral source traffic and I want to keep monitoring it, I'm going to go ahead and save it to my dashboard. And we've now kind of built this dashboard right now, which is here's my real-time traffic, there's my time of day, there's everything we just added. And I want this guy at the top because I want to see him first. So I moved him to the top, and now I've just assembled this dashboard in the last 5 minutes, and already it's like the stuff that's interesting to me.
Right. So, okay, there are a few reports maybe I would want to see on a dashboard or something built out in here. So how would you break out, well, you already mentioned how you break out new and returning users. You would maybe just duplicate a widget there and have one for new versus one for returning, right?
Sure. Yeah, let's try it right now. So let's go from actually the starting point here. And let's start with e-commerce. And let's just say we want to see our revenue for new and returning users.
Okay.
So here's this. I take any of these reports, e-commerce by channel groupings. This is a good one. So like, I'm going to look at my e-commerce conversion rate by channel groupings, and I'm going to break this up by new and returning users. So I can actually do it 2 ways. One, I can apply a segment to the whole app and say new visitors and save that. And now this is applying new visitors to all of this data on the app. So I'm now just analyzing my new traffic across all of the reports.
Okay.
So I can look at to see what people are buying the most. And here's my conversion rate for new users from e-commerce, right? So I can save this to my dashboard. Let's go ahead and save that. And the other way is within any card, you can get into the Explore functionality. You can change it at that level. So if I want to just change to look at returning visitors here, and this is what I'm interested in, I can stop here. I don't have to save this to my dashboard if I'm just trying to answer the question now.
Right.
But if I want to come back to it, I'll go ahead and save it. And then there's my breakdown of new and returning users for e-commerce conversion rate.
Perfect. Okay, so what about landing pages for search traffic?
Okay, so cool. So landing pages, you can look at in terms of, there's a few different ways you can look at it. So what do we want to know about landing pages? Let's say we want to know how many users we have on the landing page. So here's users by landing page in the audience behavior section. And right now, this is all segmented for new visitors. So let's go to search for traffic. So now I'm looking at my top landing pages for search traffic. And that's right here. So, and again, we could save this to our dashboard. So we don't have to apply segments and come back to it.
Awesome.
Why not go do and do that? What else do you have?
How about the all traffic report?
So what Krista is referring to right here is the all traffic report in GA. So this actually, what's nice about this is most of this is already built into the app. So if I look at the acquisition all traffic report, I'm looking at a breakdown of, let's go over here to acquisition in a second. So I'm looking at channel groupings broken down by sessions, new users, behavior bounce rate, and my conversions metric. If I go into my app, and let me take off my segment, I'm looking at the same data. So users, sessions, new users, and my behavior data is all here. My e-commerce conversion data is all here. And I actually also have some goals data here. And it's all broken down by default channel groupings in the exact same way. And we go deeper by allowing you to switch over to other content very quickly.
Awesome. I think that's a pretty good walkthrough.
Awesome. So I wanted to tell you about, please put your questions online. We'll definitely answer them right now. But I wanted to actually tell you about one other thing that we added to the mobile app just for premium customers right now.
Okay.
And maybe I'll switch over to slides for a minute, and we'll come back to the app in a second just to introduce the topic.
Cool.
So one of the challenges is there's a ton of data on GA. There's a ton of data on this app, as you already saw. Even though it's easy, you may still say, like, hey, what do I do with this data? What am I missing? What actions can I take? Especially if you don't have a lot of experience, or if someone you're working with doesn't have a lot of experience in GA. And there's the ways people get around this right now is that they go through efforts of learning Google Analytics through the work that Krista and her team does. We may hire professional analysts. You may call someone and ask for help. Mm-hmm. And these all work. It's just it puts something between you and actually the data, and we're trying to cut down that difference. We wanted you to be able to access the data right away. So we said, look, what if we take the people like the Google Analytics superstars we have, like the Avinashs and Danny Weisbergs of the world, who have these blogs that tell you what to do in GA, and they've written books about what to do with GA, and what if they sat next to you and looked at your Google Analytics data? What would they do? they would probably come up with some insights and recommendations for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we sat down, we spent a lot of time with them and some other people just like them to understand what type of stuff do they look for, and started saying, let's actually codify this and build this into an assistant in GA. So one half an assistant at GPS. The other half of assistant is actually building these insights and recommendations for you automatically. So we're going to give you actionable and insights and recommendations that you can actually do with your data without you having to dig through data. So we're going to leverage our domain knowledge of expertise, give you access to that activity, give you relevant insights, and we're also going to learn from what you do on those insights and try to make them more relevant for you. So it's very important that you put in feedback in the app. I will show you how to do that, and you can also share that.
So basically what you're saying here is every organization needs some rockstar analysts, such as Avinash or Daniel. I know Justin Catroni helped.
Yep.
I helped. Like there's you know, a bunch of these people out there. So you sat down with all of us and basically picked our brains about the type of insights that people would want to know for their organizations.
Yep.
And you packaged that up, and that's now available.
Yeah, and actually you'll see what it's like, and also say that we're building on it. It's not just we're not done by any means. We're just starting. So we're going to continue investing in this and giving you more and more content. We think that surfaces at the right time for you. So let me go back to the mobile app and show you how this actually works. All right, so here's our app. And in the left nav, you see assistant as an element. And it tells you that you've got 9. And 9 means you've got 9 new unread insights that you haven't seen.
Okay.
So when I go into assistant, what I'm seeing here is different in the sense that it's not just, what we've done is gone beyond just a report. With reports, they're awesome because they're incredibly flexible and they allow you to draw your own conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
One of the requirements are that you need to draw your own conclusions. You need to see what's interesting. And not all reports are always interesting. For example, we did that breakdown of by country, and you saw all the revenues in the US. And like that wasn't very interesting.
Right.
So we kind of want to take it one step further and say, well, what if we could only surface the interesting things at the right time? How do we do that? And that's what Assistant's trying to do. So for example, here, you're seeing a list of cards that attempt to find interesting patterns.
Okay.
And it's not just anomalies. It's actually much more advanced than that. But here's an example here. We've got a card that says there's a well-performing segment for returning visitors. So I jump into here. Segments that matches sessions that match the segment returning visitors make up 15% of your sessions, but they perform better on key metrics. So returning visitors have a much higher average order value. I can see they spend longer on the site. They have a much higher per session value. And we even give you some recommendations. Yeah, you might want to understand why, so you can expand the success to other parts of your site, or could you gain by remarketing to these users, or remarketing to new users in this case, and getting more returning users.
Right. Yeah, that was my first thought when you said that, you know, our returning users have basically higher order value, or they're more valuable for us. Well, of course, we want to bring them back more. So let's remarket to them more.
Awesome.
Or potentially, we could create a audience in Google Analytics and use it in Optimize or some other product to target these returning users with a specific message. But that insight came from here. We know that these returning users are more valuable to us. So even if we didn't ourselves, you know, go in and do that analysis, this insight right here is telling us that that's true, and we can take that and apply it to the rest of our business.
Absolutely. Like what we're trying to do is basically spark further actions. Like, you know, it's the beginning. Like it may have taken a bit of work to find this, but now once you have it, you're like, you have your ideas are just flowing out. Like, oh, I could do Optimize. I can do build an audience, and I could like all these things. It's great. It's exactly what we want to see. And there's a few ways you can take action here. So one, every card, again, we can share it. So if you were like, hey, I want to push this in Optimize, go ahead and share it. We tell you it's a Google Analytics insight. We'll tell you we tell you the property. You give you the full text of the card. Everything's here. And you can just pursue this. Like just go send this to yourself or someone else and go pursue this. You can share it in any way you want.
I can see that being so powerful in large organizations where you have your executives, your C-level, your managers who are just coming through these insights. They see something interesting and they're able to send it off to the appropriate teams to take action right away.
Yep.
Like building a remarketing campaign, let's send that to that team.
Yep, exactly. And you don't have to do as much work to try to find it. And that's awesome. We'd love to see that communication happen more within a company. There's definitely so much to be gained by having conversations around your data. So the other thing you can do here is you can pin this. So we'll generate new insights every week, every day. Like frequently we'll kind of push ones through depending on when we find things. But some of the old ones might drop off. If this is one I actually wanted to follow up on and make sure it doesn't go anywhere, I'm going to go ahead and pin it by tapping on the pin icon. And that's added to my pinned insights. So over here on Assistant, I'm seeing all of my insights that are fresh. And you can see this one is now pinned. If I want to just see my pinned insights, there's a toggle on the top right. It's just like Inbox. It just filters down to your pinned insights.
Nice.
And then when you unpin it, it's going to be gone from this list. The other thing you can do, so we talked about sharing, talked about pinning. You can always give us feedback on these insights. So if this one's useful to you, like Krista, you just give me a bunch of ideas and this one's useful, you hit the thumbs up and we'll tell you we'll show you these more often. If you thumbs down, we'll learn from that and show you those less often or learn from the characteristics of those. So there's actually an AI machine learning model that's in the background running on top of this to figure out what's the most relevant things for you and your business and your profile. And it's going to get better over time. The way I see it is like, imagine hiring an assistant for your company and he's just out of school and he's got some theory, right? But he needs some expertise before he gets better for your company. And it's going to take some time, right? You have to train him a little bit. And that's the way you see this. Like, I don't expect this to come in and be like the end all be all for anyone. Nothing close to that, but it's a helper is what it is. And there's a lot of interesting ones that we have. So we have another one here there's a poorly performing screen resolution of 1366 by 768, which is actually I think one of the most common laptop resolutions.
Oh no.
So you can see that this segment is 22% of your sessions, but the per session value is like an eighth of your average per session value across all other sessions. So
something's wrong there.
Something's
and we want
wrong.
to dig in and figure out what that is.
Yeah, maybe your site completely doesn't show a cart on that page, or you should just go figure out whether this is something that needs to be fixed. And this is not analysis that people normally go and do. Right? It's just something you would have missed had you not had this handed to you.
So if I want to analyze this segment now, I see a little button there.
So if you hit this button, what we're actually doing is pretty cool. We're actually taking this screen resolution, creating a custom segment on the fly, and letting you explore data with it. So here, there's a segment applied with that custom segment on the fly, and I'm going to see precision value over time. But now I can break this down even further, so I can go analyze this across anything else in the app.
So if I want to see that against, let's say, browser.
Okay.
So in my mind, if I see like a certain screen resolution is not performing well, then I'm immediately going to jump to browser. Maybe a browser version of IE or Chrome or something like that isn't optimized.
So here's precision value by browser for that resolution.
Okay, and it looks like Safari is significantly underperforming. Look at that, 0.
Right.
So there's something wrong with Safari there.
Well, let's see. Let's go and save this one, and let's go to the dashboard real quick. And I want to compare that what we just looked at with no screen resolution applied, and see if the differences are interesting or not.
Good idea.
Sorry, screen timed out. So let's go and so I've got screen resolution here, apart from the insight, and per session of a browser, and I can see it looks like there's a pretty big difference, except for IE and Firefox. It looks like Chrome, there's a huge impact. So this is actually good, really good. It looks like your screen resolution on Chrome is killing you.
Yep.
Firefox looks a little worse, Internet Explorer looks a little worse, but Chrome, you're getting killed.
Perfect. And it's that side-by-side comparison there that we were able to find after we dug in with the insight.
There you go. And like this is could you have found this on your own? Maybe. But did we have a much more interesting conversation because we just had it handed to us? Absolutely. And that's the whole idea with Insights and Assistant is, can we get you started?
Yep.
Similarly for these, we also look at interesting decreases over time. So here's a month-over-month decrease in e-commerce conversion rate. And we'll even attempt to look for the segments that drove that reduction. So we can see that direct over desktop drove this reduction. I'm going to flip around to a few different ones. There's a slow load time in India. Looks like this is one of your top 5. It's one of your top 5 countries by sessions, but it's a hugely much slower load time. This might be interesting to you. This might not. In our case, we saw already in this session that all the revenue is driven by the US. So I'm actually not too concerned about this. So I'm OK with that. I can see that there are segments that perform great, some segments perform not so great. Looking at pages actually look much slower this week, this month, and last month. So here's another analysis where this is actually impossible to do on the fly and be incredibly serendipitous if you found this on your own. But we found a page here where the overall page speed got a lot worse over time. And your site speed overall in that time did not get that much worse.
Interesting.
So here we'll even give you a deep link into that speed suggestions for that page. So if I tap on here, what it's going to do is load up that page in our Page Speed Insights tool and find specific issues that you might consider fixing. So here's render blocking JavaScript, and we'll dig deep into saying what are the specific things that need to be fixed. Here's some visible content that's not prioritized. And we'll break it down by desktop and mobile. What are the things that you should consider fixing? So incredibly valuable, and we'll tell you only when it's interesting. So this is a page that's gotten worse. You can go see what that page is important to you in terms of revenue or conversions. And if it is, you should go fix it.
Very interesting. Very cool. Well, I really like this assistant feature. I think that it's going to be really useful for our premium customers, for our 360 Suite customers.
Yeah, and it's actually, we're putting a ton more content in here. This is just the start. Everybody who's premium has access to this right now in English. Sorry, English only. We'll work on translations pretty soon. You can also send us feedback directly from the app by hitting this bug button. And what that will do is take a copy of this card and send it to us if you're comfortable with that, and just drop your feedback in and tell us what's good or bad with the card, and we'll learn and we'll try to make it better directly. So we're going to give you a direct line to talk to us as well,
Awesome.
right from the app.
Perfect. So do we want to maybe wrap it up with slides really quick, unless you had one last thing?
Let's go back to the slides.
Cool.
So back to feedback. We're really interested in feedback from you on the app, on Assistant. One of the big questions I have is, what would it take to make it easier for more people at your company to use Google Analytics? Really looking for reaching those people that you really wish you could be using the product directly. And specifically on the mobile app, I've heard from some people that there's some technical or login barriers that you have to actually getting that to be used at your company. Please let us know what those are. Very interested in that. Want to fix it if we can. And our email address for feedback is analytics-app-feedback@google.com. We're very, very open to feedback, so please send it our way.
Perfect. So let's take a quick look at our resources, and then we'll jump into your questions. If you have questions, go ahead and get them into the HOA chat box now. So as Ajay just mentioned, we have our feedback email alias. So do send any feedback that you have there, because Ajay is very interested in that and making this app a much better experience for you and your companies. Second, we have our help center, so support.google.com/analytics. And then finally, you can always reach us on social at Google Analytics. I'm at Krista Seiden. Ajay is at AJN23. With that, let's go ahead and take a look at our questions. So I have a question here from Josh, and he wants to know, will I be able to access custom reports from the mobile app?
The custom reports you create on the mobile app, yes. Can you access the custom reports you've created on the web on mobile? Not automatically. There's not a direct transfer to your mobile app. So you kind of have to recreate them, but it's kind of fast to recreate them. It's actually, I would say, much faster than the way you do in the web. Cool. So we've talked about maybe building a connection to the custom reports on the web, but it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. So the fastest way to do it is just to rebuild them on the mobile app.
Or if people think that that's really important, they can send you feedback.
Definitely send me feedback if it's really important. We ultimately want to aim for a more cross-device model for GA. It's going to take us some time, but we are going in that direction.
Awesome. Nick would like to know, does the new GA app send notifications on Android or iOS to alert me to site changes?
Not yet. to be completely transparent, it's something you want to do. We want to be very careful about, though. Many of you have multiple profiles and properties and accounts that you look at. And one of the biggest challenges is figuring out how to send you notifications without spamming you. Like, say you have 3 profiles on the same property, which many people do. There might be the same trigger on each of those 3. But you wouldn't want to send it to you on the ones that, on all 3 of them, you'd get completely annoyed. We'd only want to pick one. Which one should we pick? Should we let you choose? Should we choose? How do you change the settings for that? It's kind of complicated because we have accounts, properties, and views that are going to spread across organizations now. So it's coming. It's just we have some things to think through there. Again, open to feedback. If you got specific suggestions of how you'd like to see this working, we'd love to see it. It's definitely in the future of Assistant to drive notifications, both from the ones you've created and the ones we create for you.
Great. Mallory would like to know, is there feature parity between Android and iOS, or is one ahead of the other?
There's pretty much feature parity between Android and iOS. The only small difference right now is that iOS actually supports landscape and portrait, and Android we're catching up. We only have portrait on Android. We're working to get landscape support working on Android, but we're going to continue maintaining feature parity across Android and iOS. It's important because, like I said earlier, you have teams of people that you work with, and we don't want your experience to be different talking to your coworker if he's on a different device. That's not a good experience. So we're going to continue to try to work towards parity.
Perfect. Ajay would like to know, can dashboard and card configuration settings be shared with other Google Analytics app users?
Great question. Not yet. We've talked about it. The simplest way to share it is just to share the card right now. And it's very easy to reproduce that card with like probably 3 clicks. You can reproduce that card in the app. Sharing the whole dashboard or sharing cards as they're configured is not something we have right now. But if you share the cards or worst case a screenshot, it's actually very, very simple to reproduce it.
Cool. So this is the last question I have, unless anybody has more, get them in. But I think this is a good one to kind of, oh, I see more coming in. Perfect. Well, then I will save that one. So is the GA mobile app reporting, so Stephen wants to know, is the GA mobile app reporting always going to be supported? Firebase doesn't support cross-device user ID. This is very important for user behavior tracking and concerning that Firebase lacks this.
I'm trying to parse this question.
I think these are 2 separate things here. So, Stephen, I think one, you're referring to the data collection.
Right.
So what we're talking about today isn't about the data collection. It's about the data presentation, analysis, discovery, monitoring. That's the GA mobile app. So is that always going to be supported, I think is one question. And I think the answer is yes. We've just spent a lot of time building this, and it's something that we're continually improving, right?
Yeah, I think the question ultimately is about the SDK. Like, what's happening with the Google Analytics SDK now that we've had Firebase? I would say, don't be alarmed that we're going to shut off the Google Analytics SDK because we have Firebase, especially for those of you, there's hundreds of thousands of you that have apps running on Google Analytics SDK. We're not going to turn it off.
Right.
And we're also not going to ever even consider doing that before we have the things that are important to you in Scion or in Firebase. So
exactly. And we actually covered that last HOA when we had Fontaine and Scott here. And Fontaine did a really good overview of kind of the differences and the value adds of having both Firebase Analytics and GA, the mobile app SDK.
Yeah.
So take a look back at that HOA for more detail on this. There's a lot of information in there.
Yeah, it's actually a confusing thing when we talk about the mobile app. People think we're talking about the SDK and the mobile app. Actually, when you search your Google Analytics mobile app on Google, you'll find articles from both. So you can also get, that doesn't help with confusion. So
okay, so finally the last question, and one I think that's good to end on, is from Andrew. Andrew wants to know, what are some examples of things that Assistant can discover for me? So let me rephrase this and ask you, what are the top 2 or 3 coolest things that you think Assistant can do that you want people to know about?
One of my favorite ones is, I think there's a few different ones. So I really like the segment discovery ability in Assistant, like the returning users when you looked at the screen resolution one, where if you think about it, there's there's something like 400 dimensions in GA, and there's you can do combinations of those. So there's like, if you just take 2-dimension combinations, you're talking about 16,000 different segments you can try to analyze. And then you've got metrics, all the type of metrics you could look at. There's 5, 6 key metrics you might recite. You're talking about 65,000, 100,000 different combinations of things that you might have to go analyze before you find something interesting. And that's incredibly impractical for any human to do. And one of the nice things with Assistant is we try to surface the interesting segments that perform differently, whether better or worse, or maybe they have some interesting combinations of those against some key metrics for your site. I think it's one of the most powerful things that I've seen. It's a bit challenging at first to understand what to do with those unless you have the knowledge. Like, for example, we had a great conversation on returning visitors and remarketing and the type of audiences. But once you start to build that tool set, that's an incredibly powerful source of insights. One of the other ones is to time over time analysis. Oftentimes you'll look at your site and you'll want to know what's changed and why. And that second part's really interesting. So we'll highlight what's different in some of your key metrics. We'll tell you if there's revenue that dropped significantly, or if there's e-commerce conversion rate that dropped significantly, or if your users dropped significantly, or vice versa, if they increased. We'll tell you which subsegments of your site actually made different behavior. So you might see that, hey, your e-commerce conversion rate dropped by 20%. But when you dig into the segments, there's this segment, like display ads segment, which didn't change at all. So that's holding your e-commerce conversion rate of revenue up, but your direct traffic dropped like a tank. So you'll see what drivers actually drove that. So that's one of the things I really like. There's another one that's actually very simple that I like, which is actually just a quick summary of your top key metrics and week-over-week performance. Sometimes it's nice to just see in one place in a simple table, what are my movements in my top metrics? And those are some simple ones. There's some cool ones coming, which I won't reveal just yet, but we're definitely working on a whole bunch of new ones that we're gonna keep pushing into there. But yeah, but please interact. Like when you use the insights, when you share them, when you talk about them, when you send us feedback on those, that's a really good signal for us of what's helpful and what's not. And we'll keep investing in the ones that you think are helpful, and we'll maybe invest a little bit less in the ones that you don't. So
definitely, maybe you can even write up a nice little summary of the new cards or insights that are coming, and we can post it in the community when those are launched.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, Ajay, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you guys for tuning in to our latest HOA. We'll continue to have HOAs throughout the summer. We might be on a little bit more of a summer schedule every 3 to 4 weeks rather than every 2 weeks, but do stay tuned for those announcements. So thank you guys very much and have a good day.
Thanks.